So I'm Richard Magid. During the introduction, I'm here with the UT Research Foundation, and really intellectual property is where the Research Foundation starts.
Slow down.
So, what we do is we take intellectual property that's been developed, here at the university, whether it's by students, staff, faculty, trainees, anybody, and we do what we call technology transfer. And really, what I mean by that is moving knowledge, moving inventions from UT to a commercial partner. So there's a ton of technology transfer that just comes out of students graduating, right? You're an engineer, you're a communications major, right? You graduate, you take your knowledge, you go into business, and that is transfer of information, transfer of technology. But what we're really talking about is inventions and discoveries that come out of someone's mind during a course, out of a lab, out of a clinic, out of an experimental farm. I mean, really, inventions and discoveries. And to frame it sort of from Dale's introduction, mainly we're talking about patents and copyrights for my office. Now, UT is very concerned with trademarks, the UT brand, UTM, UTHSC, UTK, the flying UT that I have here. My office doesn't deal with the brand and the trademark of UT. And as a university, and especially a public university, we really don't deal with trade secrets at all, right? Most of the things that we develop ultimately are going to be published. And so as Dale said, trade secret has to be kept confidential. That's what makes it a trade secret. That doesn't really fit with sort of the mission of a university, especially a public university. So mainly what I'm talking about today is patents and copyrights. So the mission of the Research Foundation and me and my staff and everyone else at UTRF, we want to commercialize UT inventions. We want to support an entrepreneurial culture. We want to grow the UT research enterprise. And, again, as a public university, we want to contribute to regional economic development. We get, I think it's $1 billion or $2 of state funding per year into the university. And, in addition to training students, we also want to if we can, directly grow the economy of the state of Tennessee, the region and the country. So really, this is what I just said. So why does it matter? Innovative research really does create products that can benefit society. Whether it's a new medical device, whether it's a better type of battery, whether it's a drought-resistant strain of corn or soybean, these are things that can really, benefit broadly, across society. Commercial success generates financial rewards. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, yes, we're at a university, a public university, but we don't give these things away. We license them or we sell them, as Dale introduced right at the end of his talk. And this generates rewards for the inventors and for the university. If we sell off, a product or license a product and get royalties, that's unrestricted funding back into the university. And unrestricted funds are pretty rare. Usually the money the university has comes with all sorts of red tape, all sorts of rules around it. Royalties don't. The university can really use it for any purpose that it thinks fits the mission. Economic development. Nearly all the spin-out companies that launch out of the University of Tennessee stay in Tennessee and are local Tennessee-based companies. So it really does contribute to local economic development. And then for the university, if maybe you end up partnering with industry as part of the tech transfer process, this brings in research funding, provides access maybe to some high-tech equipment that otherwise the university wouldn't have access to. Directly provides student training, and frankly, it provides employment, jobs at the end of it. If through your work, through a research project or a graduate project, you've worked with a company for a couple years, that's like an extended interview. And at the end of that, they're very confident in who you are, and you've had this extended chance to impress them. And if that project's gone well and they want to keep it going, you're the perfect person for them to then hire and bring on board. So what does my office do? This is just a broad selection of things. So we look at inventions, and that's supposed to be evaluation of inventions. So we meet with a lot of different people and say, hey, what do you have? Let us sit down. Let's talk about it. We are not public. We work for the university. So when you talk to us, that's not publicly disclosing anything. That's just talking to someone sort of inside the house. We manage the patent and copyright process, and that includes paying for it. So if we look at your invention and we think that it merits a patent or merits copyright protection or registration, we cover that with our budget. My office here, and I have a counterpart office in Knoxville, gets funded each year, and we support that cost. You don't have to pay out of pocket if we think that it's something that we want to support and we want to invest in. We don't get patents just for the point of having sort of a wall full of patents. So we then market them and try to find partners to license them, to buy them, to develop products or develop businesses. So that's something that we'll work with you on, but technology marketing. When we find someone, negotiation of a license. So again, something that is a sort of a very technical transaction. You want to sell your device or license your widget for a fair price. Licenses are complex legal documents. You can either hire an outside attorney, or in this case, that's something again that my office does. I've done 50 or 60 transactions myself. We have attorneys on staff that have done that many, so we know how to do a license that's going to be a fair deal for both sides, and end up being something that's enforceable and really leads to what comes next, which is royalties. So we make sure that if someone says they're going to pay a certain amount per year or a certain percent of sales, we collect that, we enforce that. If necessary, we hope it doesn't get to this point, we can actually either threaten or enforce in litigation people's contractual obligations under that license. We do directly support a little bit of invention through the Research Foundation, so we call it maturation funding, some small grants that are open to anyone, for a little bit of funding if you can get something done for a few $1,000s to really take it from that napkin-based idea to a prototype. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. This is not to build out a business. This isn't venture investment or seed investment. This is sort of early stage, research funding. And then we just provide, general intellectual property support for anything that happens to come up around the university, and educational support around the areas of intellectual property, such as tonight. Sort of how are we doing? So this is just sort of from across the system for the last 5 years. Almost 700 inventions have come through either my office or the other office. About half of those we ended up filing provisional patents. So you heard from Dale, that's usually where most people start. We do start with provisional patents almost every single time. So 390 plus provisional patents. And so far those have led to 140 patents received, issued patents. Many more still in process. It does take a number of years sometimes to get through the patent office. So we have a lot of things that simply haven't been examined yet. Over 120 new deals that we've signed, including 22 new startup companies. I believe that 20 of those 22 are Tennessee-based, and one more is Atlanta. So they really are, very much local type companies. We've collected just a little over $8 million in revenues. Distributed $3 million of that straight back to the inventors. So if you invent something at UT using UT resources, you do have to assign it to the university. It's a little different for students because I can get into it during the Q&A session, but using resources usually means in a lab or on a grant or something like that. But in return for assigning it to us, we give 40% of it back to you personally, and another 30% back to your department and your campus. So we've distributed $3 million under the UT policy back to inventors, and we've put $3 million of our own money back into the patent pipeline. So patents are expensive, but this is something that we're actively supporting. So Dale did a great job on this, introducing the different types of IP. What is an invention? And really the quick answer is almost anything can be an invention. Software, medical devices, chemicals or polymers, other materials, manufacturing methods, even if the the material is a very common material. If you figure out a better way to make it, that is a useful and valuable invention. Drugs and vaccines, consumer products, plant varieties. I mean, these are just some examples of things that we've seen and that we see routinely. They all will have a different value, but all of these can and frankly have been commercialized in the past few years. I'm not going to go through all of this, but when we get an invention into the office, these are the questions that we ask, and I put it up there because I think these are the same types of questions that y'all learned over the first few sessions, when you're thinking about your own ideas and your own businesses, and it's exactly what we're asking. So we want to broadly understand the technical merit. What do you have? Have you really proven it out, or is it just an idea? Is it protectable? So that's directly intellectual property. Then what's the commercial potential? And frankly, also you as an inventor or as a potential founder of a new company, what do you want? What are you bringing to the table? What's your past experience? These are really the areas, the 4 different things that we try to understand as we look at it as an invention and decide whether or not to support it. And I think all these slides are going to be available, so you can download the slides and look through these questions at your leisure. So why do things stall out? We have something come in the door and we think it's fantastic. We say let's file a provisional patent. We bring on a patent attorney, someone like Dale, someone that has expertise in that type of invention, and a year or two later, we reevaluate and we realize, what, this just isn't working out. Here are some of the most common reasons that we see things that look great at first, but that they sort of fall out over time. Sometimes we get our IP evaluation wrong, and as we get into the patent process, we realize, what, there really isn't a strong, patent position possible. Or Dale mentioned some software problems where you discover down the road that you didn't really have the rights to use, or you don't have the right to make a product, so an unfavorable position. Similar with freedom to operate. Dale gave the example of with the bicycles about you may be blocked by someone else's patents. That's what we call freedom to operate, and we may only discover down the road that you have a good invention, but there's simply no way to manufacture it or no way to sell it without infringing on too many other patents, and it's just not viable. There may be unfavorable new data. We see this, unfortunately, all the time in the medical fields, where you have what looks like a great new drug or a great new medical device or a vaccine. You go into clinical trials, and it completely doesn't work, right? It looked great in mice and rats and dogs. You go into humans, and it doesn't do a thing, or worse. Sometimes the inventor themselves loses interest. This was the greatest idea you had in 2014, but in 2016 you have 3 ideas that are 10 times better, and you're just not interested in the old idea because the new ones are better. And so, without the inventor, sort of taking an active role, it's going to be hard to successfully bring something, to market and build a business around it. And sometimes, we get our estimate of the market wrong, and we think that this is a market that's big enough to raise capital and to build a business around. But as we really start to get into it, or as you start to get into it, you discover that really the addressable market is much smaller than you thought, and frankly may not even be big enough to build a business around. So some of the reasons that things can fall out of our invention funnel. What we've found over many years and many inventions is that we absolutely need inventor participation for successful licensing or for a successful business startup. You're the expert, so I'm a generalist, right? I can talk to a lot of different people, a lot of different backgrounds, and understand things at a shallow level. But I'm never going to be the expert on an agricultural technology or even a biomedical technology. My own background, right? I'm good at understanding things and doing a brief evaluation, but I'm not building the business. I'm not the one that devoted sort of a career to it. When we bring a company to the table or an investor to the table, the first thing they want to do is talk to the inventors. They don't want to deal with us any more than they have to. They want to use us to get to the inventor or get to the founder of the company. And you may not believe it, but you're actually also going to be the single most important source of leads. So your personal network, people you meet at trade shows, at conferences, I think y'all learned about elevator pitching or pitching in general earlier. So when you're out there talking, whoever you're talking to, some fraction of those, may end up taking interest, and you never know, when that's going to be an important, business partner or investor or a supplier or just, a consultant, anything like that. So, when to contact us. If I had one message for people to take home from my brief talk today, contact us anytime, but contact us before you present your ideas to the public. You just immediately, weaken, if not demolish, your opportunity to get patent protection on an idea as soon as you present it to the public. And this is, any presentation in a public forum, any type of publication within the university system. We even want people to talk to us before submitting grant applications. Not that a grant application is necessarily public, but people are going to be reading it. You don't know who's going to be on the other end when you hit that submit button on a grant application. So, absolutely contact us anytime, and the earlier the better. We would rather hear about it and say, okay, you're not quite ready yet, let's set up another meeting in 2 months, than say, oh, you really should have talked to us 2 months ago, and now, unfortunately, it's too late. And this is the team that I have, down in Memphis. We all have slightly different backgrounds, but frankly, any of us would be happy to talk to y'all at any time. And I'll take questions, or I guess Dale and I together will take questions. Yeah, good. Thank you, Richard. If you all will have a few questions, and then we have a few moments with Mr. Hendricks. So be sure to ask any questions you might have of these two gentlemen. They are the experts.
I got a quick question. I've got two questions for Dale, and I got a question for Richard. Dale, I think many of the people in here may be looking at lifestyle businesses, and so let's assume that they've developed a company and maybe they're selling a product and they have a salesman, and we see it all the time where the salesman may leave and take the customer list or something. Is that intellectual property that can be protected? And if it is, what's a good way to protect it?
Okay, so that customer lists, source information of where your revenue stream is coming from or how you're building your products, that's the confidential information that we're talking about for trade secrets. So that is something that would be covered by trade secret law. The number one way to protect that kind of situation is in the employment agreement itself with that salesman. So when the salesman gets hired in, you don't want to just say, hey, you're hired. No, here, you got 100 sheets of paper. You need to sign every single one of them. And one of those pages is going to say, anything you invent while you're working for me, I get it. The company gets it. Another thing that stack of papers for the employment agreement is going to say is you have to turn over everything that belongs to the company when you leave, and one of those documents is going to be a confidentiality agreement of everything that you learn and know about the business does not leave with you, and it may include, depending on the state, an agreement for non-competing. So you cannot go to work for a competitor company in your space for a certain number of years and within within a certain geographic footprint of your business for that very reason.
And my question to Richard was, most of the people here are students. Can you give them just kind of a brief overview of how IP may come up in the student context and how to go through that? Yeah, so that's important because you don't lose your ideas simply by enrolling at the University of Tennessee, right? So we use a standard that we call the meaningful use of resources, and really that is taking a salary, using research funds on a grant, using equipment, that belongs to the university, something like that. So general internet use, using the library, being even something that you produce in a class does not attach it to the university. It's really more in a role as an employee of the university, not as a student. So,
inventing something, in your dorm room or in a senior design course, doesn't generally attach it to the university, barring some other reason.
And we actually had an example a few years ago, it was a farm spec team that did that. And the nice thing is then you can talk to them and you kind of have a choice.
Right.
And most of you students don't have a lot of resources to help with the patent process. Well, if you're a student with UTM and if they like your idea, they'll help you out. Okay.
Yeah, it's voluntary, but we
Yeah.
will still absolutely look at it with the same sort of criteria as any other work.
The other thing about using them that we found with the farm spec team that you've heard us talk about over the last few weeks is initially UTRF does sort of a market analysis to determine if there is going to be a market for the product. So it's a really quick and easy way to determine if there's a market for your product. That's the other thing that I think it really brought to Sean Butler and the farm spec team is that they were, okay, there really is going to be a market for this because they validated that there is a market. So not just patent protection, but the other parts of the do.
If you were starting out, and it's what it is an outdoor education program, and we have a logo, would we want to look at more copyright or trademark? Where is the good line to decide between that, or should we look at both sides of it?
Possibly both. If it is just something local, and you're not going to be expanding into Kentucky, you don't have people coming in from Kentucky to participate in it, then it's not something that you would look for federal trademark registration, because there has to be that foreign or interstate commerce catch in order for federal law to protect it with a federal registration. There is trademark registration in the state, though. You could register it with the State Department of Commerce. And for copyright, you don't have to have any sort of interstate commerce for that. You can just submit it, your logo with a copy of it and the application. Super cheap. I would almost do that as a knee-jerk reaction for a lot of things like logos or something like that, because you change your logo, you can just file another one. It's not really not that much of a cost into your operating expenses.
Does everything that is created fall under one of those four? Like, would everything have to go into one or more of those, or are there things that don't necessarily need any of those four things that you talked about?
For the different types of intellectual property? Yeah, so there's, I didn't talk about it, but publicity rights, the ability to use your face and likeness, and nobody else can do that without your permission. That's something that kind of overlaps with maybe branding for an actor or an actress. It overlaps with copyright law for the same sort of reason, because that face, that image is copied in pictures and movies and everything like that, but it still belongs to the person. The likeness belongs to the person. So there's, so I guess the real answer there is that there's some things that don't fit neatly into each one of those buckets, but there's a lot of things that fit and overlap into several different categories.
I guess the only thing I would add is that you're not obligated to, it gives you the right to exclude people, a patent or copyright, but open source software is very successful, simply because you may have the right to exclude someone doesn't mean you can't actually release something into the public domain because you think it fits your business or your business model better.
Red Hat, Linux,
Yeah.
they made a lot of money with open source software.
Anybody else have a question? Okay. Dale and Richard, we thank you both very much. Hopefully you get to use them. When I bought the umbrellas, it's like, I don't know, we may never get to use them, but I want to thank you all very much for sharing your thoughts and experience and wisdom on this intellectual property. And
You're welcome.
copywriting.
Absolutely.
Thank you.